Have you ever caught yourself staring at the sky in silence, feeling a profound longing? Have you ever woken up in the middle of the night with that question echoing in your chest? Will I ever see the person I love the most, who has already passed away, again? All of us, at some point in our lives, will face this emptiness and this silent desire for reunion. Loss is universal. Love is, too. But what few realize is that the pain of losing someone not only reveals the size of that love, but also a secret hope. The hope that, somehow, in another time, in another place, our souls, our most sincere bonds, can touch again. Today I invite you to dive with me into this question that lives in the heart of humanity. No matter your religion, your culture, your age, at some point you've already asked yourself, or you will ask yourself, if death is in fact an end point. And what if it's not? What if life is a cycle? And what if the presence of those we've lost still resonates through time, waiting for the right moment to reconnect with our essence? Before we continue, a quick pause. If you have ever felt a deep longing for someone, if this question has shaken your inner world, leave a like now, comment "I believe" below, or share your story. Subscribe. Your engagement here not only helps this channel grow, but can also be a bridge between people who feel the way you do. After all, stories connect hearts, and maybe today, your story is exactly what someone needs to hear. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine. If there's one possibility, just one, of seeing, talking to, hugging, feeling the person who has passed away again, you would do anything to find out, right? We are moved by stories, by hopes, and by a kind of love that defies logic. That's what we're going to talk about. Deep down, the question isn't just about what happens thereafter, but about who we are as humans. Why do we cry? Why do we remember? Why do we feel that the physical absence never completely eliminates the emotional presence of that person? What makes a mother call the name of her son who is gone? What leads a widower to smell his wife's perfume years after he said goodbye? And most importantly, why, in the face of goodbye, does our heart insist on whispering a "see you later"? These questions are etched in humanity's DNA. They have inspired civilizations, created myths, named gods, and carved altars and stars. And today, they inspire you and me to seek meaning for the life journey, to question if the purest bond of all, love, can truly die. In this series of reflections and stories, the proposal is not just to give answers, but to expand your perception, open possibilities, and who knows, rekindle that spark of hope that we all carry. Everyone has a story of longing, and maybe together we can get closer to the mystery. Imagine a campfire crackling in the middle of an ancestral night. Men and women sitting in a circle, eyes full of fear and wonder before the unknown abyss called death. Long before writing, before science, even before organized religion, human beings sought answers and sought reunions. Let's travel. Ancient Egypt. For the Egyptians, the other side was as concrete as the golden sand of the Nile. The Book of the Dead, one of the most fascinating works of antiquity, brought precise instructions for finding loved ones on the journey through the afterlife. There were rituals to protect, farewell letters, and amulets created just to ensure that no one walked alone in the Duat, the realm of Osiris. For them, the presence of ancestors was permanent, and family ties continued, tinged with prayers and offerings. And if we cross the ocean, we reach the indigenous peoples of the Americas. The native North Americans saw the afterlife as a great path, where the reunion with ancestors was as natural as being born. There was no terror in the end, just a new cycle. Children grew up hearing stories of grandparents who watched over the living like gentle winds, protecting tribes and whispering advice in dreams. Grieving was pure respect and celebration. Not a rupture, but a transformation of presence. In Asia, Eastern civilizations like India and China forged vast cosmologies around the continuity of the self. The concept of reincarnation emerges strongly, bringing with it not only the hope of return, but also the progressive reunion between souls linked by ancestral affinity and unresolved love. In Japan, the cults of the kami, spirits of family members, keep the relationship between different worlds alive. In all these corners, a lesson: we were never alone. Can you perceive the power of this common thread? From the golden veneer of the pyramids to the beaten ground of indigenous villages, the question is always the same: where are those who have gone, and how can I join them? More than fear, death has provoked creativity. The most beautiful pyramids, temples, festivals, and poems of humanity are, in fact, attempts to keep love alive, because love does not accept losing. Whether in the monumental or the simple, in marble or in clay, human beings have never accepted the absolute end. Funeral rituals, All Souls' Day, home altars, temple offerings. Everything is born from the universal appeal that, in some way, the bonds survive time. And curiously, the older the society, the more it perceived that death was just a change of condition, never a definitive goodbye. Oral tradition passed from generation to generation said, "Be attentive to the signs." A different wind, an unexpected butterfly, that song playing suddenly. Every culture has its messages, its codes. They were not just superstitions, but a kind of universal language to say, love seeks paths. Over millennia, between wars and celebrations, campfires and sacred scriptures, man has perpetuated an intuitive certainty. We will meet those we love again. Sometimes in other forms, other landscapes, but always with the conviction that what matters, the purest feeling of care and bond, is indestructible. When we look at our own grief, our own pain, we are hearing the echo of thousands of voices that came before us, all asking for a single miracle, the miracle of reunion. Now prepare for a journey through the beliefs that fuel our hope for reunion. Because where there is faith, comfort is reborn. In the heart of Christianity, the promise, "In my Father's house are many mansions. If it were not so, I would have told you." The Christian faith rests its heart on this certainty, that, after the journey of death, there is the resurrection of the body and a new heaven, a new earth. It is in the redemptive embrace of God that parents, children, friends, and lovers confess, reuniting in eternal communion. A faith built on testimonies of apparitions, post-mortem encounters, and the return of Jesus himself in a glorified body. In Christian grief, we find prayers, masses, and candles lit with a silent request that one day we may recognize each other again. In Islam, paradise, Jannah, is not just the reward of the righteous. It is also the place of reunion for families, clans, and pure friendships. There, according to the Quran, the faithful will be united with their loved ones, sharing feasts of light and peace, where no tears need to be wiped away anymore. The Prophet Muhammad taught, believers will not only meet to pray together in this world, but also in the afterlife, sipping together from the eternal gardens. In Hinduism, reunion is born in the infinite dance of reincarnations. Souls linked by karmas, loves, and shared lessons share countless lives, returning, time after time, to each other. There is a beautiful and mysterious expression in the Vedas. In each cycle, those who loved each other seek each other like rivers that do not accept dying in the sea. Grief here is seen as a passage, love as a commitment without an expiration date. In Buddhism, the light of detachment does not prevent hope. The concept of the bodhisattva reveals beings who abdicate their own nirvana to help enlighten others, including friends, lovers, parents, and children of many journeys. By compassion and by bond, no one is left behind. What force moves someone to renounce perfection for love? Only that which is in fact eternal. In Judaism, reunion is woven into the tapestry of Olam Haba, the world to come, a place where faithful souls can unite before the face of God. It is common, in Jewish homes, for the memory of loved ones to be marked by candles and prayers, rituals of memory and spiritual invocation. The time of mourning is ritualized, bringing the sacred desire for continuity and reunion in a plan of divine justice. If we cross to smaller traditions, from tribes to Eastern philosophies, the song is similar. Among spiritualists, for example, it is common to hear reports of communication between the living and the dead, always permeated with affection, patience, and progressive reunions. The cult of ancestors, present in dozens of African and Asian cultures, sees the coexistence with ancestors as something routine and vital for the harmony of the community. Notice different places, languages, stories, and they all answer the same existential question. The fear of separation generates everywhere rituals and doctrines to sustain hope. And there is a secret here. The more universal the belief in reunion is, the more it has become a refuge. No matter the name of the god, nor the form of the soul, what survives from generation to generation is love. There are even philosophical currents, centuries later, discussing what happens after the end. Plato, for example, argued that kindred souls would seek and reunite in dimensions of light because like seeks like. Immanuel Kant, fascinating and rationalist, even considered that the consciousness of love is so strong that it can, yes, break the limits of time and space. At the epicenter of all these traditions, an image, hands intertwined not only in life but also beyond it, the universal comfort, the seed of hope. And you, in which of these beliefs does your heart find shelter? Could it be that deep down, they are not all pointing to a deeper truth about the power of love and connection? But what if there is no religion? What if your view is skeptical, if your mind is forged by reason, by the scientific method? Is it still possible to believe that there is a bridge between lives, a continuity, or even a reunion? Prepare yourself. Science, incredibly enough, has a lot to say. In the 1970s, a doctor named Raymond Moody changed the course of the debate on death by releasing the book Life After Life. In it, he reported hundreds of clinical cases of near-death experiences, NDEs, people declared clinically dead, and who, upon returning, reported incredible encounters with deceased family members, childhood friends, parents, mothers, grandparents. Consistent stories, often reporting details impossible to be known by someone who had no heartbeats. What is the explanation? Like the case of Pam Reynolds in the United States. She underwent surgery with induced cardiac arrest. During clinical death, she reported having seen relatives who had already died and described conversations and details of the surgical procedure that would only be possible to know if she were conscious, something impossible according to conventional medicine. For some doctors, a hallucination. For others, an intriguing evidence that consciousness can survive the body. The Dutch cardiologist Pim van Lommel went further. For decades, he researched more than 300 documented NDE cases in hospitals with clinically verified data. What was surprising was not only the similarities of the reports, meeting with loved ones, a feeling of peace, absence of fear, revisiting memories with loved ones, but the constancy of the phenomenon among atheists, materialists, and believers of all religions. Lommel observed, death, in some respects, seems to be a change of state, not an annihilation of consciousness. Another striking study came from Dr. Sam Parnia, one of the world's leading experts in resuscitation. He led a research in British hospitals, interviewing people who had gone through episodes of cardiac arrest. The result? Impressive cases of reports of encounters with loved ones in environments outside of time, with verified details of events while the brain was inactive. And it doesn't stop there. Scientific reports and articles from centers like the University of Virginia gather thousands of testimonies from children who claim to have memories of past lives and accurately describe relatives, homes, and even traumas that could only have been known by living another existence, alongside other groups of family and friends. Skeptics, it is true, argue hallucinations of the dying brain, dreams, memory distortions. But why then, under almost identical neurological conditions, do millions of people around the world cling to the same type of narrative? I saw my mother, my father smiled, my daughter hugged me, and I knew it wasn't over. Science still has no definitive answers, but the more it investigates, the deeper the mystery gets. New theories about non-local consciousness, quantum phenomena, and the impossibility of proving the absolute end of everything lead many scholars to accept at least the hypothesis. Maybe, far beyond the brain, there is a spark of bond, a network of affection that resists time and matter. So the question persists. Could it be that, when silence arrives, when everything seems final, life just changes channels? Could it be that the love we feel is also energy, and like all energy, never ceases, it just transforms? If you find this mystery fascinating, if you want to continue traveling through these possibilities between science and the invisible, leave your like now, subscribe to the channel, and share in the comments if you have ever read or known someone who had such an experience. Together, we can transform this space into a haven for real stories, hope, and genuine investigation. Follow me, because in the next chapters, we will dive into stories of ordinary people who challenged the impossible, and we will explore what consciousness and time can reveal about the eternal reunion. What's to come can change the way you see life, and who knows, even death. Perhaps one of the most transformative questions someone can hear in grief is, have you ever felt as if that person was still around? And invariably, the answer comes with teary eyes, a slow sigh, and a story. Because yes, something happened. And and it is in the stories of ordinary people that the extraordinary reveals itself with the most force. Take the case of little James Leininger, an American boy of only 2 years old. He began to have terrible nightmares with planes being shot down. In tears he would scream, "The plane caught fire! I couldn't get out! I was the pilot." The parents, skeptical at first, began to hear increasingly specific reports. He said names, described World War II planes with details he could never have known. When they investigated, they discovered that everything coincided with the story of a war pilot who really existed, James Houston Jr., killed in combat decades earlier. When the boy saw a photo of the old pilot and the ship where he served, he pointed naturally, "That was my bed. There, my plane. I died there." Coincidence? Invention? Maybe. But what if it's not? Now imagine an elderly lady, Maria, reading an old letter her husband wrote before he passed away, decades earlier. She hugs it, closes her eyes, and smells his scent intensely, as if he were right there. And at that exact moment, the old song they used to dance to begins to play on the radio without any explanation. She smiles and cries. Or think of Gabriel. He lost his mother at 25, a sudden death. At the funeral, in shock, he asked mentally, "Mom, tell me you're okay. Give me a sign." That same night, he dreamed of her, alive, smiling. She handed him an envelope. In the dream, he opened it and saw written, "I love you more than yesterday and less than tomorrow." 2 weeks later, while cleaning the house, he found exactly that note among old books, one she had written to him in his teens and that he had forgotten. Coincidence? Maybe. But again, what if it's not? Thousands, perhaps millions of reports like these emerge every year. They cross cultures, ages, religions, and social classes. People who, in the face of grief, found something more, something inexplicable. A scent, a song, an object that disappears and reappears, a tenuous but real presence, a conversation in a dream, an intense feeling that that person is there somehow. These stories are not read in laboratories. They live in silent kitchens, in dark rooms, in solitary walks, and each of them says with delicacy, absence can be a type of presence that we still don't know how to measure. Although science many times has no space for the invisible, these reports continue to emerge, crossing centuries and borders, like waves from a single current. Love does not accept the end. Carl Jung himself, the father of analytical psychology, said he dreamed of deceased patients who returned to deliver messages. He himself stated in letters that death may be just a change of form and not of substance. He knew the unconscious hides dimensions still unexplored, and maybe the soul speaks in another language. The truth, when someone loses a loved one, the pain is not resolved just with logic. It asks for meaning, for connection. And that's what these stories do. They don't prove reunion. They evoke it. They keep it alive. And you? Have you ever experienced something like this? Have you ever had an inexplicable feeling of presence? A vivid dream? An unexpected message? If so, share in the comments. Your story can light a spark of hope in someone exactly today, because sometimes it is in the other's story that we recognize our own, and in that recognition we can discover that no one truly leaves. Close your eyes for a second and try to imagine time as a book. Each page represents a moment of your life, childhood, youth, the present. Now imagine that, unlike the linear reading we do, all pages exist at the same time, all of them. This is the concept of block time, an idea defended by physicists like Hermann Minkowski and accepted today by part of the scientific community. It suggests that past, present, and future coexist, that time is, in fact, an illusion of human perception. And if so, could it be that those who have left are just on a different page of our book? Now let's go further. Quantum physics, a field as fascinating as it is mysterious, works with particles that are in two places at the same time, with phenomena that defy logic, such as quantum entanglement, where two elements remain connected even separated by thousands of kilometers. Einstein called this spooky action at a distance. But imagine applying this concept to consciousness. What if our minds or our souls are more than a product of the brain? What if we are tunes on a much larger station? The radio is not in the radio. The radio just captures a signal that exists even outside of it. And when it breaks, the signal continues. Many consciousness scholars defend exactly this. The mind does not reside in the brain. The brain is just the receiver, the translator. Just as you don't destroy the music by breaking the radio, you don't destroy consciousness by stopping the body. Near-death experiences, deathbed visions, vivid dreams, synchronicities, for some they are noise. But what if they are real transmissions, coming from a plane where time doesn't count and consciousness doesn't die? Researchers like Bernardo Kastrup, a neuroscientist and philosopher, have defended the idea that the universe is mental, not material. That is, everything we see is born from consciousness, not the other way around. Consciousness does not depend on the body. The body depends on it to exist in form. This changes everything. Because in the traditional perspective, we think, the person died, therefore they cease to exist. But under this new lens, we can think, their body is gone, but their consciousness may have migrated, merged. Maybe it even continues to pulse in another plane, another vibration. In deep states of meditation, masters report encounters with presences. And curiously, ordinary people also feel this. Not only in temples, but in small gestures of life, a place that suspends time, an imagined hug that seems real. An instant where you feel intensely that that person is there. And if time is non-linear, then everything exists now. Love was, is, and will be simultaneously. Think about that the next time you feel a longing. Maybe it's just your soul trying to touch the other in silence, like someone turning the dial of consciousness, looking for the right frequency. There is a deeply comforting idea, present in ancient and modern spiritual traditions, and that is gaining more and more strength in therapeutic practices and in the field of contemporary spirituality, that there are bonds beyond biology. We are not just transient bodies accidentally colliding through time. We are consciousness on a journey, and along this journey we meet and reunite with the same souls, path after path, life after life. This is the concept of the soul family. People who, in previous or parallel lives, have already been by our side in other forms, mother, father, friend, child, partner. But the role changes, the bond is the same. Have you ever met someone and, right at the first moment, felt as if you recognized them, a look, a silence, a common gesture? It's as if they were saying, "Ah, it's you again." These connections transcend time and space. They are vibrational harmonies. Psychoanalysis would call it deep transference. Physics would call it energetic resonance. Spirituality calls it true love. In this field of frequency, what connects is not blood, it is shared meaning. And the most beautiful thing? These souls help us to evolve, sometimes with tenderness, sometimes with pain, because growing hurts, and these souls who travel with us come to fulfill invisible contracts, to care, to teach, to awaken, to leave when the time comes, but always to return. There are stories of mothers who, when they lose a child, dream of him saying, "I will return, Mom." And after years, they give birth to another child who brings not only traits, but memories, gestures, and surprisingly familiar behaviors. Spiritualists and reincarnationists study this deeply, but you don't need to follow these beliefs to feel that certain bonds never break. Allan Kardec, in the Book of Spirits, said that the bonds of sympathy are eternal. Love does not fall apart. It changes form, adapts to the plane, but never dies. And maybe what we call longing is, in truth, a synapse of the soul feeling the echo of these bonds that cross layers of existence. Love is frequency. Think about that. And like all frequency, it can be captured. When you think intensely of someone, you are not just remembering, you are touching that consciousness, like waves that propagate in the invisible sea of the soul. So the next time you feel longing, tighten in your chest. The next time you cry at seeing a photo, the next time a song plays out of nowhere on the radio, think this can be more than memory. It can be another soul in another plane saying, "I am here, still together, on another frequency." If you have come this far and these words have touched your heart in some way, how about speaking up? Leave your like, comment, "I feel it." Send this video to someone who has lost someone special, and help spread this reminder: love does not die. It changes planes. The journey continues in the next episode. Get ready to discover practices that allow you to keep the relationship alive, even after goodbye. Up until now, we have explored the history, faith, science, and personal stories that support the hope of reunion after death. But perhaps the most important question now is how to keep this connection alive in the daily experience of grief. Because, as comforting as it is to imagine reunions in other planes and dimensions, The truth is that absence hurts in the here and now. Longing does not wait for future reincarnations. It lives in silent mornings, on birthdays without cake, in songs that return with the taste of tears. But there is something you can do. Simple, symbolic, but deeply potent practices. Gestures that allow the mind and heart to access the sacred space where this connection still lives, even without touch, without voice, without physical presence. Start with something seemingly naive, talking to the person who has passed away, aloud. It may seem strange at first, but try it. Choose a quiet place, light a candle, hold a photo or a symbolic object, and talk. Talk as if they were there. Tell them how your day was. Vent. Feel. This act, contrary to what many think, is not madness. It is the language of the soul. It is longing becoming a bridge. Therapists specializing in grief call this symbolic dialogue. It is something that gives pain a channel for expression, and it gives the soul a movement of approximation, even if only emotionally. By talking, by verbalizing, you activate areas of the brain linked to effective memory and secure attachment. In practice, you sensitize the brain to the possibility of subtle connection. This generates calm, relief, and not rarely deep perceptions. Another powerful practice, create an altar of presence. It can be simple. A shelf with a candle, a photo, a written letter, a symbol. A physical space dedicated not to loss, but to symbolic permanence. This small gesture helps the unconscious recognize that that presence still has a place in your life, not as an absence, but as a light. Muslims pray for the dead looking towards Mecca. Christians light candles in memorials. Hindus make pujas, symbolic offerings. Why not create your own ritual? Another tool forgotten by modern traditions, but profoundly rich, the language of dreams. For millennia, dreams have been seen as channels of contact. Many people report dreaming of loved ones in a vivid, detailed, emotionally significant way. Do not discard this. Before sleeping, close your eyes, call their name, say, if it is possible, come visit me. I am open. This simple invocation, made with love and respect, activates your psychic system. And what seemed improbable begins to happen. Encounters in dreams that heal. Sometimes just a look, sometimes a message, sometimes just the certainty upon waking that yes, that hug happened. And finally, write letters. Writing is a channel for decompressing the soul. Take pen and paper and write as if the other person were going to receive it. Say what you feel, tell what you are living, say what you would have liked to have said. These letters do not need to be sent. Sometimes burning them in a ritual or saving them creates an incredibly therapeutic effect. Surrender, internalization, transformation. Connecting with those who have left is not about trapping the past. It's about recognizing it as an active part of your inner present. It's about giving voice to love because it doesn't need a body to continue existing. When the longing is great, try all this and know you are not talking to the void. You are telling the universe, my love continues. And that by itself is a type of eternity. Perhaps at a certain deep level of existence, what moves us is not the fear of death, but the certainty that love is too great to die with it. Because it's curious, even without a concrete answer, even without a final proof, even in the face of centuries of doubt, humanity insists on believing. Why? Because deep down, we know. We know that that look that crosses time has something more. We know that the hug that left marks on the spirit was not a chemical accident. We know that love, true love, is beyond the flesh, beyond time, beyond the name. It belongs to what we timidly call eternal. And what if all this is real? What if what we call life is just a chapter? And what if each goodbye is a comma, not a period? Imagine for a moment. Imagine that one distant day, upon crossing the invisible boundary between the planes, you see that beloved face. Imagine that the absence dissolves into presence, that the silence is filled with old words said in the eyes, and that, together again, you seem to have never been separated. And what if it's true? This possibility needs to be nurtured. It's like a flame, fragile, but alive. Grief tears us apart, but at the same time it reveals the true value of what is eternal. You only miss what was true, what was too immense to fit into just one life. So instead of asking, why did he leave? Maybe we can ask, why was that love so great that it still pulses in me, even without him being here? Because that love doesn't end. It turns into strength. It turns into care. It turns into living memory. You are not alone. You never have been. not in pain, not in absence, not in this love that connects you to what has already been, but that lives in everything you are now. And after so many paths traveled, so many possibilities explored, maybe the end point is not an answer. Maybe it's a question that echoes forever. And what if love really transcends death? Now that you've come this far, stop for a moment. Breathe. Feel. You have carried this question with you throughout the video. Maybe for a whole life. Will I ever see the person I lost? And even if the answers still waver between faith, science, and mystery, you felt something, didn't you? Maybe a memory came back with force, a smell, a voice. Maybe that tear that appeared was not just sadness, but a good longing, which connects. And that's why I ask you, don't keep this just to yourself. Comment your story here. Tell if you have ever had a dream, a presence, an inexplicable moment. Talk about the person you love. Honor their name. When you comment, you make them eternal on a new plane, the plane of shared words. And you never know who might read it and be healed. Your story can be someone's relief. And if this content touched your heart, leave your like now. Subscribe to the channel. Activate notifications because we will have more videos like this, exploring the mysteries of the soul, of existence, of consciousness, together in a community movement, a family of souls talking about love beyond death. And share this video with someone who needs to hear this today. It can be the exact bridge between grief and hope. Because in the end, only love remains. And if it remains, nothing is lost, ever.